You might be curious as to why I think the kitchen triangle is such an antiquated and outdated concept when it comes to kitchen design layout. One of the concerns that most clients don't have is whether or not their new kitchen is going to have the perfect kitchen triangle. Like rarely will I have a client that is really concerned with whether or not their fridge, their stove, and their sink are in the exact perfect location that they need to be in order to create this perfect work triangle. The work triangle, in my opinion, is a great guideline in order to get your kitchen relatively in the right path and the right lane of function, but it really doesn't answer a lot of questions. They have other questions that they're pretty concerned about overall. And the kitchen triangle is rarely one of them. In my kitchen, there are some things that the kitchen triangle doesn't solve, and I'll go through some of that in this video just to show you, like, even this little small kitchen, which actually has, according to the guidelines, the perfect kitchen triangle. There's things that my kitchen actually is missing or could be done better. And you're like, what? But yes, I have some deficiencies in my kitchen, which we will discuss in a little bit. Dishwasher is the issue with the kitchen triangle, because in the 1920s and on into the time period when this thing was introduced, there weren't any dishwashers around. Most kitchens didn't have a dishwasher. The big sink, they had a fridge and a stove, but the dishwasher was absent. And the thing about the modern kitchen is the dishwasher and other appliances that have become very popular, and the kitchen triangle does not address those things. And so what do you do? The general idea was to make the kitchen more economical in terms of movement and how you went about the space. The original name was called circular rooting, but that really didn't stick. So they changed the name to the work triangle later on, or somehow that name developed. So the idea that the kitchen triangle makes the kitchen more efficient is true, but in the 1940s, this university took this concept and as a way to make the building process less expensive, to standardize the way kitchens were built in order to make the whole process cost less and I guess maybe streamline, building overall. Every home would have the same kitchen, and so everything would be very standardized. But that doesn't optimize for efficiency or workflow or storage or anything else in a kitchen. And so we kind of have this issue because, as you know and I know, your kitchen and my kitchen, totally different rooms in terms of their layout, in terms of how you use the space, in terms of a lot of things that we should be asking. So clients, like I said, never ask about the kitchen triangle. What they do ask about is, Mark, how do I get more storage space? How do I get more usable storage space in my kitchen? That's one of the main things that clients ask me that the kitchen triangle doesn't answer. The other thing that clients ask me a lot of is getting the most amount of counter area so they can do various tasks in, which is very important in a kitchen. The whole point of the kitchen is for cooking, prepping, putting away food, preparing food. You get all the stuff that happens, serving food. You need counter space for all that. The kitchen triangle does not address that at all. It just tells you the distance of appliances to the sink and where they should be. Not very helpful. So the dishwasher brings into play this element that's not part of the triangle. Now, it is close to the sink. It's part of the workstation of, the sink and cleanup and that kind of thing. But it gets in the way of the work triangle. Now, in the 90s, in the 1990s, the NKBA decided that they would revolutionize the kitchen triangle idea. They tried to come up with this rectangle idea. And they were definitely onto something, because the rectangle makes more sense. There's more things in the kitchen than just the sink, the stove, and the fridge. And the reason that it didn't work was because of poor marketing. That's kind of a funny reason for that concept not to take off. It didn't take off because they had just poor marketing. Imagine that. So all this time, there's a better way to be thinking about it, but we're just stuck with the kitchen triangle idea. The idea that the workflow has now changed in a kitchen is obvious. We all know that the triangle doesn't work, but still it's like it's in there, and we're like, well, does it obey the kitchen triangle? It's like, well, does it really matter? Now remember, back when the kitchen triangle was first being discovered or thought about, there was usually one cook in the kitchen. Normally, it would be the wife of the home. It was designed so that she had the most optimized space to work in, which I think is great. The idea behind it is perfect. Yes, you want to have the most optimized functional space of your home that you work in, your kitchen, that it's optimized for you. So one, you have just one cook in the kitchen, and you're optimizing for that, which is great. However, history shows that that's just not how it stayed. The kitchen triangle is mostly conducive to a U-shaped kitchen. So a kitchen that has 3 walls, and on those 3 walls you can place one of the vertices of the triangle. So the sink, the range, and the fridge are all on separate walls. And this creates a really usable space. But over time, kitchens have evolved into these different shapes and layouts, and usually that U-shaped kitchen isn't that popular anymore. In fact, the more open L-shaped kitchen with an island even is arguably the most popular kitchen style in a new home construction, or some type of open concept idea. Usually a one wall with an island or an L shape with an island is very, very popular, but overall those layout styles might not be the most conducive for a kitchen triangle. I mean, the L shape's okay, but if you take my kitchen here, basically a straight line, and then here, and then here, like, it makes a really small triangle, which works in this kitchen. And in fact, the distances are all perfect, but it doesn't make my kitchen functional by any means. In fact, my kitchen has places that are just not functional. So you want to optimize for storage, you want to optimize for counter space, you want to optimize for workflow, and you want to optimize for things like your dishwasher and your microwave and your coffee or your Vitamix or your steam oven or your, you name it, the appliances that you use on a daily basis and where those things are placed. And so we talk about work zones, which is a kind of a boring topic, but it's important to think about if you're designing a kitchen, how the work zones in your kitchen work with each other and work, with the elements within the work zone. So for instance, the dishwasher, sink, and garbage, how do those things interact with each other and how they interact with the rest of the space. The way I view a fridge in a kitchen layout has nothing to do with the kitchen triangle. It has the most to do with everybody else in the home and who's using the refrigerator. We have 3 teenagers. We want to access the fridge. Everybody gets into the fridge. So there's this stream of access here that everyone can get at, and if the fridge was buried, say, in here, it's further away from the living area of the house. Everybody would be coming through this space, getting in everybody else's way, but in this kitchen, the island, you have 2 points of access. The refrigerator's on one end, and it's the most accessible. I think the refrigerator could be, in most cases, on the outskirts of a design, on the outskirts of a layout, even further away from the triangle so that everybody has access to it. However, there's nothing wrong with designing your kitchen so it obeys, the rules of the triangle. You just do have to remember that there's all these other things that are important as well. Now, let's address some areas of my kitchen that are a really big problem. One being this little area over here, and let's go into detail about that because I think it's important. The triangle did not address this, but all of you have this space in your kitchen, most likely. You have a space like this. The space I'm talking about, of course, is this mess of counter space that just is a catch-all for all the crud that comes into our home. We come up the stairs from the mudroom, and that's just where stuff goes. It doesn't stay on the island because it's kind of out in the open, where this is a little bit tucked away more so than anything else, and so it's a little less visible, but it's very visible and it's annoyance. Amy hates it, and I'm trying to get it cleaned up all the time. All this stuff used to go in this drawer, which is now basically cutlery, but there's still some stuff that creeps in here that doesn't belong. It's trying to become a junk drawer, but we've said, no, you're not allowed to be a junk drawer. You have to have some better purpose than that. So we put cutlery in there. It's, to try to encourage us to not have this space. But what has happened is that now this countertop space is just all this junk everywhere. And so the kitchen triangle does not address this issue one iota. This has to do with organization. This has to do with having a space planned out in your kitchen. What even is all this stuff? Let's find out together. I mean, this is just empty bags, envelopes. In your kitchen, you're going to have to be either okay with having a space like this or do some really solid planning in order to deal with this beforehand. Now, what happens in a new construction is that you can easily kind of overcome these issues because you plan for them. There's always going to be this space in your kitchen that it's not planned for properly. And that's okay. It's okay. Now that looks much better. The kitchen triangle does not help me with this. This was just a problem area that needed to be solved, and we solved it right here very easily. It didn't take any work at all, but you should have a place in your kitchen that you can put junk, or just know that there'll likely be a place, because we're creatures of habit. And once the flashlight or the keys or the thing goes in that spot once, then look out. You just set a plan in motion that this is going to happen over and over and over again in your kitchen. So just be aware of that. And a lot of you are trying to solve for these areas. And so it comes down to decluttering, which I just did here. All this stuff is junk, most of it. And organizing properly, having a spot in your kitchen where you can organize these things inside a drawer. Have specific dividers so you can put specific things in. If it's for mail, if it's for keys, if it's for change and other ancillary items, then you can put them in there easily. And they're a little more sorted, and that way you can kind of visually go through and take out what's not needed and keep there what you want to keep there for however long you want to keep it there for. One of the biggest problems that many people have in their home is storage, and the kitchen triangle does not deal with that effectively at all either, because it doesn't talk at all about storage. It doesn't talk at all about any of those things. It just talks about getting from one place to another, but there's all this stuff in between that's very important. Countertop surface is important, storage is important. You know, having this all locked into your design is essential for something that's functional and efficient. I mean, check this out. Look, what is up with this? Just a mess. That's a ton of wasted space right there. I mean, this is really, that's it. That's all we use. Second shelf, it's like, you can tell, it's like stuff's just thrown there. We hardly ever use it. And then the top is just ridiculous. So I don't need all that space. And so a wall pull-down unit would be very effective. I could just have that one wall pull-down unit. This cabinet over here, it's all the mugs. But look at the top, not used. This is what I don't like about wall cabinets. What's in here? Ah, the toaster, some tea, top shelf, hardly used, nothing up there. Okay, awesome, way to go. What about this cabinet? Let's see here. Oh, the vitamins and some other things, some cookbooks, top shelf, just a mess of stuff, but hardly really used. Now, above my fridge, hey, the worst area of any kitchen is above the fridge, okay? Here you go. I mean, what are we doing here? We got barbecue tools. What's even up there? Is that like it's like a chocolate melter. When's the last time I used that? So accessible. This is me. Can't reach anything. Can reach that, but I can't reach that. I'm on my tiptoes. I can't even reach it on my tiptoes. So, you know, I'm 6'1", I need to get a stool. Now, let's look at this cabinet, the pantry, up top of the pantry. Oh, just a bloody mess. With the Pringles, you got this stuff everywhere. So, I mean, this is real life. This is just a real kitchen. So, yes, I'm the kitchen designer. Shouldn't all these things be addressed? I just live life like you do. And there's areas of my kitchen that could be better. So, one, over my fridge, I should have a pull-down unit. I think that would be useful. Have a pull-down unit in this cabinet, very useful. I don't even probably need half of these cabinets because, as you can see, a lot of them aren't even utilized because they're up top. It's hard to reach. What am I going to do? Like, I don't want to be carrying a stool around. I don't want to be standing up on a chair. Now, I'm 6'1". How do you think my wife feels? She's 5'6", so she's not going to be able to reach half of this stuff. When you're designing your kitchen and you're working with your designer, go through that design and figure out and spot all these areas. So be aware of above the fridge. Be aware of underneath the sink. Be aware of tall wall cabinets that are hard to access. Be aware of these spaces so that you can address them appropriately and come up with effective ways to use them in your new design, because you don't want to be stuck with like what I'm stuck with because I just didn't put enough thought into it. Now that I'm into the YouTube space, now that I'm back designing kitchens for clients for the past 2 or 3 years, now it's like, oh, there's so many things I should have done in this kitchen that would have made it way better as a kitchen design YouTuber, so I don't have to be embarrassed when I film it, that I would have done differently. But you know, I can't change that now. So all I can do now is make sure that when I'm dealing with clients is that, hey, we address these areas and make sure that you get the most functional kitchen. And if you want to work with me one-on-one to design your kitchen, there's a link in the description below that you can do that. Don't think I'll be asking you a whole lot of questions about the work triangle, because I won't be. I could care less about the work triangle. In fact, I think it's just, like I said, an antiquated idea. This is the outro, and this is the video you should be checking out if you want a very functional kitchen. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.